Travis Wayne Goodsell. Because I didn't go shopping this week, as I needed to, since I was begging and pleading you guys to do as well, I ran out of milk, and so after I uploaded True Lion's comment reply, I went to the corner of Bodego. What the hell are you Mormons doing? Stay home. It's Easter Sunday, for God's sake. And yet everything, the Maverick, the Bodego, they're all packed. And the streets are packed. My hell, people, stay home. We're not out of it yet. So, that's Mormons for you. These are actually probably the Jack Mormons, many of whom are Hispanic, I noticed. My West Valley stake has a separate Spanish ward that covers the area. But my hell, stay home, guys. I don't want you dying. And that's what Mormons don't get. They wish I would die, but I don't wish they would die. I just wish they would change their thinking processes and recognize the obvious, that the church is false. It's demonic, even. Literally demonic. Led by Lucifer himself, as I've demonstrated with the brand new opening clip in the previous video today. Alright, so yeah, the True Lion, apparently you're bored because you're staying home on Easter Sunday. Good for you. You did a couple of edits since I uploaded the last comment reply. One was to the 2 hour ago one. You edited that. And then a week ago you edited that just now. So I'll scan through, see what is new, if I can remember, because a week ago I may not remember. And we'll just do another comment reply for you. Let's see, just mistranslated. What was real history was Jews. Egypt, was it all Egypt? So the Romans was the history recorded. Did the Ten Commandments exist? Okay, no. Did Jesus? Okay, here we go. Here's something new. On Amazon, he's saying, I admit that Jesus did come to earth. It's obvious. No, not obvious. Just everybody talks about the character. And so he's apparently referring to some old books that I had published, which would have been back in 2017, because here he says, I also said that there was a sign indicating the real year. So yeah, that would have been back in 2017 when I had gotten a hold of the Stellarium program that I now have, and was testing it, checking it out, seeing how it worked, and trying to do some research into sign identification for specific events, and trying to confirm if the 23rd September 2017 sign was a once in existence sign. I was too lazy to do the physics calculus. That's backup things for something. I don't want to stop, but I need to find out what that is. Can you bear a long pause, or do I have to stop the video? Hold on. Oh, okay. It was just the Federal Express guy finally leaving. So, alright, so no ambulance or anything like that for anybody here. Nobody died. Yet. Okay, so yes, I did publish a book about the sign of Jesus. I hope people understand of the context in which I published things. I didn't start researching real LDS church history until the end of 2017. And I've done the video where I explained all that, even though it's like decades ago. Yeah, before then, I was still wondering and trying to confirm and find other assistance concerning the church being led by Lucifer. And so, even though the April 2017 conference, well, actually it's 2018, so yeah, it wasn't that, still wondering at that point. So I didn't fully understand why Nelson was involved with the total solar eclipse sign, as I identified him way back in February of 2017 with the partial lunar eclipse during the flood, the Elko flood that flooded all around Utah except for Salt Lake. Yeah, read Revelation chapter 12. It's at the end. Yes, I did admit, and I did indicate a year. But again, who is my audience? Mormons. When does Mormonism think that Jesus came to earth? Well, Mormons created a completely new date. And that had to do with the Doctrine and Covenants section talking about the organization of the church, which there is no record in the government archives of New York or any surrounding area. No official organization, just the Doctrine and Covenants saying what they did. That is significant. And I still have yet to find if Freemason organizations needed to apply with the state. And I assume they did if they had to build Masonic temples to reside in. But they kept their own records of members and stuff like that. But so does the Mormon Church. And so, yeah, if I can confirm that Freemasonry needed to have an official filing with the government, then we should keep searching for the church. And if not in New York, we have to go elsewhere. Just saying. Okay, so, because the fact that Smith Sr. was a Master Mason in 1818, and then all of a sudden he's given the farmhouse in Manchester, he would have been a member in Vermont. So we historians need to be looking in Vermont for Masonic lodges records of him becoming a member there. And I would check around 1800, if not 1799. Why? What was Hiram's name? Yeah, Hiram. And how was it officially, legally spelled? Hiram Abiff. So, just saying, historians. Not that I'm telling you how to do your job correctly, as you've messed it all up already. But, let's see, he goes on, I wonder what it was. Yeah, I've been telling on other videos as well, as if you guys already saw the video. It was on 8 April 4 AD. We just had that date come and go. And just this past Wednesday, for Passover, that evening was the official Passover. The Passover moon had already begun on the 7th at 7:15-ish in the evening here in Utah. And so, yes, there's a connection with all of this. And yes, the next total solar eclipse over the whole over the eastern coast of the United States, but crosses over X marks the spot in southern Illinois, where Joseph Smith said in 19 July 1840, we need to build pyramid cities of Zion and New Jerusalem there. Before the Christ. And so yes, there is a direct connection. And so when you look at the flag of Islam, crescent moon, as we all assume it's a crescent moon, the communist flag of all the different communist countries, it's also crescent. That's interesting. It's the same as Islam. Why is it the same as Islam? And the Catholics have a little thing with the crescent moon, and Jews have their crescent moon, and businesses have a crescent moon. You ever remember Mac Tonight from McDonald's? Remember the commercial as he's playing the piano with the crescent moon? And DreamWorks with their crescent moon? And many news channels with their eye or crescent moon? Yeah. Everyone has the symbol. And where did it originate? 8th of April, 4 AD. And why is it a crescent? And not a total solar eclipse or lunar eclipse. It was a solar eclipse that year, on that day. And it started in, is it Finland or Scandinavia? I think Finland. Let me check the maps. Come on. There we go. Yeah, Finland. Probably into the northern part of Sweden, but definitely through Finland. And the closest I can get in Russia, because I don't really know my Russian cities that well, in connection with what's available on the Stellarium program, St. Petersburg is the closest. And so I couldn't get it to do the flare like I did with the one in Independence, Missouri. It passed over Independence in 2017. But that's the closest. And so it came right across in that area. And it's directly above the Middle East. Thus, why everyone in the world uses that symbol. That's where it comes from. It's not the crescent moon, it's a partial eclipse of the sun. Partial eclipse of the sun. And so, yes, now you know the origin of that symbol everywhere. That was it. And Mormons need to understand, when I was writing that book, that their belief that 1 AD was their belief because it's in the Doctrine and Covenants, therefore it's official. And so therefore we're going to rewrite history of when the first year of the reign of Zedekiah was. Wait a minute, what are you talking about, Travis? Mormons know, don't you? Don't you? Please tell me you know. 600 years from the time Lehi left Jerusalem, which was the first year of the reign of King Zedekiah. And so if Mormons are going to rewrite history, shame on you. So no, the Doctrine and Covenants is not the birth date. And so no, it was not on the 6th. And no, it was not on the 8th either. That was just the particular sign that everybody used to say, oh, we're going to use that as the coming of the Christ. Even though they had written all about it much later. They just said, yeah, that's a good time frame. That was a significant event, wasn't it? Yeah, wow, let's write about it and talk about a Messiah coming and then getting killed rather than saving us. So that even though Matthew is saying, Jesus fulfilled this prophecy and this prophecy and this prophecy and that prophecy, and even that one too, then he dies. Not fulfilling prophecy. And that's why the Jews don't believe in the gospel Jesus. It's because he failed. The Jews are looking for someone who wins, who succeeds, not someone who fails. That's the prophecy. Someone who wins, who restores the kingdom of David on earth, who establishes New Jerusalem and Zion, who becomes the king of the world, taking over the corruption. And just nobody gets it. And so that's what it was, that's when it was, but that's not what it was, what it was for. People just attributed that to the date. And so I was trying to help Mormons step by step, line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little, because I was just in the beginning back in 2017, because the end of 2016, just a few days before the election, Fox 13 News Utah announces the total solar eclipse, and I dropped my jaw as I'm standing there at the TV, which was in my bedroom at the time. And I was still married at the time, and she was in the kitchen at that time. And because I remember that day, I remember that moment. I remember when I know exactly where I was and what I was doing, just like 9/11. And yeah, I couldn't believe it. We had just gotten over the tetrad, and a year had passed, and I thought, oh, okay, that was it. That was kind of cool. 3 apostles died during the tetrad. Cool. And then that happened, and I went, oh crap. And so here we are, coronavirus. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's I didn't originally think that the biblical signs were as detailed as they were, but when that announcement came for the total solar eclipse, I needed to do more study and be more diligent, and that's how I discovered the February one and identifying characters for each of the planets and all that stuff. So, and then I've been tracking them as the days go by. Is it not Weezer? Is it Weezer? The ones who did the commercial and then became popular because of it. The days go by. Well, whatever. And so I can check. I'm in the internet. Just pull up another tab for YouTube. And this is a comment reply. We've got nothing better to do we? True Lion. Days go by. There we go. Oh, Dirty Vegas. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. So, yes, I did say that. But you need to understand it in the context. I was trying to help Mormons go back to the Book of Mormon, to trust the Book of Mormon rather than their created birth date of April 6th, which is just not, because there was no sign on that day. There's supposed to be a sign, and on the 8th of April there was a sign. That's when the sheep would be lowing in the field. Remember? How it can't be Christmas because there's no sheep in the field at that time. Not until spring. Not until April 8th. And so again, that's another contradiction in the timeline of the gospel narratives, messing things up. Okay. Was Nazareth fictional? That was on the previous thing. I explained that. Was every location in the Bible in Egypt? We agree that Jesus lives. Do you really agree with his birth, his life, his death, and his resurrection in the signs? You're referring to Osiris, which you didn't listen to my comment reply yet when you edited this. And so I'll let you listen to it, which I'm sure you've done now. I think it's been long enough. Yeah, I explain it there. That's Osiris. I don't know the year when Osiris lived. I just know of his reality because of the extreme detail and focus in Egyptian about him and his life. And the other person is Horus. That's Jupiter that John the Revelator talks about. It's for Mormons, he's the one mighty and strong in section 85, and he's the one like Moses in section 103, which Mormons are confused at, again, creating future that they are going to be disappointed when it doesn't happen. And that's the danger in speculating, is that when it doesn't happen the way you speculated, you should dismiss speculation and let history determine the true interpretation. Instead, Mormons deny the history, deny the existence and the reality of what's going on because it doesn't fit their speculations. That's why nobody's listening to me. That's why Mormons still continue to put thumbs down on my videos, is because they're speculating and refusing reality, refusing to search for truth. And so that's a big frustration among Mormons with me. But yeah, just understand the difference between Osiris Jesus and Horus Jesus, because I've done the playlist on both the older channel I had and this newer one, where I go over every prophecy in detail about who the guy is, when he's to be born, where he's to be born, where he moves to, some events in his early childhood, and as well as what he's going to do. But I don't get too much into what he's going to do, because we all know what he's going to do. He's going to become the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the Great High Priest, to eventually conquer the corruption in the world, as all kings have to give obeisance to him in America, or their crops and their homelands are going to suffer. And my plan is different than the prophecy, but it could work in the sense that if the kings come to me and say, hey, we need help with our agriculture, yeah, I can submit my plans that we are doing here in America. But the way that it's worded in Scripture is hilarious. And so, yeah, it's just, nobody thinks about this kinds of stuff because we've all been taught incorrectly. We've all been taught wrong, and there's so much confusion with what is being taught to us, like Gospels, for example. They're all screwed up as to what is his birth date. Is it Christmas? Is it in September, because that's when Jupiter exits Virgo. Is it, or when the Sun is with Virgo? Sorry, not Jupiter exits. And so, which date? And the Bible messes that up and just throws all of them in there. And so nobody knows except those who actually do the research and allow history to interpret Scripture rather than my own speculations to interpret Scripture and deny truth when it comes before me. And so, his miracles are not miracles, they're just science. There's no such thing as miracles. It's all science. Prophet, somebody who predicts, scientifically predicts. Revelator, that's an astronomer. Seer, that's a historian, an archaeologist, an anthropologist, doing the past, the present, and the future, but not so much the future as somebody who's a prophet who predicts the future. And an astronomer can also look into the future as well. And then translator, that's an obvious science, linguistics. And so that's all the priesthood keys are science keys. And anybody can get the keys as long as they're trained, educated, and experienced. It's not hard, not complicated, and yet the presidents of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints since Brigham Young can't produce any fruit to show for it. Nelson, as a scientist, a medical doctor, can't show fruit for prophet, seer, revelator, nor translator, which they keep a secret. They don't want to disclose that they are supposed to be translators but can't do it. Yet he knows Chinese, probably Cantonese, but he may know Mandarin also. I missed that part, or wasn't paying attention when he said it. So apparently he's able to communicate with President Xi, or Emperor Xi now, I guess we need to be calling him, because last year, or was it the 2018, he declared himself emperor for life. So if we're calling him president still, we need to stop that. He's now emperor. He did away with communism. And he said, I'll let you have your temple here in Shanghai, Nelson, if you do me a favor, though. He pulled the exact same thing on Nelson, and unbelievable. Anyway, off topic of your questions. What's the real year when he died? Again, Osiris, we don't know, because I don't know, because I'm not wanting to do the physics calculus, nor am I wanting to, my stellarium I don't think is capable of going that far back in history. There is a date limit, and Osiris lived before that date limit. And so I would need an updated version that allows me to go back even further and fix some of the errors, like no 0 year. We need to get rid of 0 year on it. And also the North Pole changes after so many millennia. And so they need to fix that too if they're going to be accurate in their program. But otherwise, don't know right now. But Horus, I already know his birth date. His death date, I'm still wondering. Again, it's in the future. He has to succeed. If he fails, which the Book of Mormon indicates he might. Ether records the history of the destruction of his entire civilization. Moroni records the destruction of his entire civilization. Get in the pattern there. Do you understand the severity of the warning of the Book of Mormon? Other people are reading my other comment reply to you, so it's not just you, the true lion, who are listening. There are others who are listening as well, because they want to know what's going on, because the title caught their attention for some reason. But yeah, understand. What about his miracles? No miracles. There's no such thing. Magician does miracles. But when you know how he does it, then you go, oh, yeah, okay, been there, done that. Boring. Watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. Well, it's because he has a little over thing that he then moves that out of the way to then pull the rabbit out. So when he shows inside, it looks like it, but it's all black, so you can't tell depth perception because of it. That's why. And then sawing in half, you have another person who's wearing the exact same footwear, and thus it looks like they're cutting the person in half, but in reality they're just standing up and leaning. I guess the other person's not standing up, they're upside down when they're cutting the box. But yeah, it's all optical illusions for magicians. And so miracles, yeah, no, isn't it a miracle that Trump has not gotten coronavirus? He's been in close contact and shaken hands with and all that with people who've got coronavirus, and he doesn't have it. Wow, that's a miracle, isn't it? No, he's got the vaccine. It's not a miracle, it's science. And it's an obvious one, and he's murdering Americans while he has the vaccine. He's holding it back from us, which again confirms he's the four horsemen of the apocalypse, purposely trying to murder everybody during this apocalypse time. So don't be fooled by thinking that people can do miracles and magic tricks and all that. Alright, so now the one from a week ago. Not sure if I'm going to know what's new. Let's check it out. Saying that Constantine established the sites, and it was all Constantine. Yes, it was all Constantine. Was David's kingdom in Egypt? Yes, went over that in the video today. Was Joe Smith a real translator of Hebrew? He didn't. Well, he studied Hebrew from Rabbi Sykes in 1836. After he had bought a Hebrew Bible and lexicon and grammar, or I guess it was it Oliver Cowdery who did the buying and then brought it back to Joseph, along with the Greek lexicon and grammar, I think, something like that. But he doesn't refer to them until the King Follett Discourse in 1844, with his work on the papyri. He does throw in some of his Hebrew education from Rabbi Sykes. Rocky Yang, for example. If any of you have studied Hebrew and know about the Rakia, but not the Rocky Yang, well, that's Rabbi Sykes'. So yeah, Joseph did know Hebrew, but he was actually going to Paleo-Hebrew, because that's how Elohim is plural. Because when the Bible was written, Constantine already changed God for everyone into this brand new Greek word, homoousios, and a whole new concept of God. And again, I still see Christians and Catholics who look at pagan religions and say, oh, that's just the Trinity. They're imposing Constantine's change on the pagan religions, the past. No, guys. Don't use the current scenario to change the past or interpret the past. let the past lead you to how we changed. It goes for historians and Bible scholars alike. And so, like even with the church, Mormons want to impose the current church on Joseph Smith. You just can't do that. It doesn't work. There was no administrative 12 apostles. That was Brigham Young. And why was it Brigham Young? Because he didn't follow section 107 verses 21 and 22. And so if he's not going to follow it, he has to reinterpret it and justify it in some other way. And that's what he did. And so Mormons now just think, oh, well, we have 12 apostles. Joseph Smith had 12 apostles, and they were the administrative function of the church. And therefore, Brigham was the true successor. No! No! Is it 124? Section 124, Mormons. Look at Joseph in the titles he has. Prophet, seer, revelator, translator. Then look at Hiram, his brother, older brother, who became patriarch, because he's the patriarch of the family now that Smith Sr. is dead. Prophet, seer, revelator, patriarch, not translator. Now look at Brigham Young. The keys of the kingdom to preach the gospel to all the world. That's it. No prophet, no seer, no revelator, no translator, no patriarch. He's in the 12 apostles, but he's got no administrative function. He's got no priesthood keys other than to preach the gospel. He's an elder, as elder missionaries are today. That's it. That's all. And he took over his branch of the church. There were other branches. Sidney Rigdon went his own way and tried to continue his church. I think there's still a few remaining that split off and merged and did weird stuff, but there's still remnants. Emma Smith, the wife of Joseph, she didn't go with Brigham? The true successor? No! She hated Brigham. You know, you got William Smith saying, hey, you killed Samuel with poison. And murdered Hiram and Joseph. So no, she's not going to go with Brigham. Hiram's wife did, sadly. And so Joseph Fielding Smith was raised by Heber. But, don't let the current history, the current practices, reinterpret the past. That's the one big mistake that I see everybody making. Even in the Bible, that anachronisms. That's what they are. Where you impose current practices on Joseph Smith when there wasn't any such thing. It's that simple. Mormons are causing anachronisms already on Joseph Smith. And with this last conference, more anachronisms were made by Ballard and others. Nelson even the God is now an anachronism. And Mormons just don't see it. They're like, oh, okay, whatever you say. God. Alrighty. Did Joseph Smith make up the Trinity? Yes, homoousios. Brand new Greek word, brand new concept of deity. Because the bishops could not agree. They were not willing to give up their speculation of who God was. Was he the Word? Was he a man? Was he half man, half God? Was he full God? Was he spirit? They would not agree. That was the one thing in the Nicene Creed they could not agree with. So Constantine said, fine, all of you are wrong. We're choosing C from as I do an anachronism here, Stephen R. Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, because Constantine had that book and read it and had, oh, okay, you guys are A, you guys are B, let's do plan C. It'll satisfy both of you. Win-win. See how anachronisms work? They don't. And so yes, Constantine made up the Trinity. So it can end. It was long, it was summer, it was hot. They didn't have air conditioning as much as some people want to throw in an anachronism for that. Their GE appliance air conditioning unit was not functioning that year. Yes, Im, plural. Standard plural. So Elohim was plural. It was Constantine who changed God into a Trinity, making him one. And so they had to change the definition of Elohim. And that's when all the changes took place. That's when Emmanuel became God with us. It was during that same time period. What's the only correct translation? I already covered that in the previous video. King James getting it all wrong. Tell us, was the Savior's real Hebrew name Yahashua? I did the Amen video on that one. I think I explained that to you. So he's the god Amen, son Amen, father Amen, the Egyptian deity. And I did the one about Joseph Smith, knowing that. Yeah, you're responding on Russell M. Nelson. This is not Joseph Smith's church. So maybe it's in that one. Yeah, Yahashua or Yahshua or Jesus, that's just a title for Savior, Redeemer. Yes, Hebrew names did have meaning. Everybody's name had a meaning. Just like the Native American Indian names. He who dances with one foot. You know, that's how they name children. Dances with Wolves, for example, the Kevin Costner movie. That's where it originated. Everybody had a name and it meant something. And so in the Old Testament, in the Genesis, for example, the author always has to clarify the birth name with an event that occurred around the birth. So Jacob is called the usurper because he followed Esau holding on to his foot. And it was supposed to be a prophecy for his life. So the names were not only an event that occurred during the birth time, but it was also a prophecy, almost like a new name. Smelling something burning. Ugh. Smokers, the wind blowing in, or is somebody barbecuing? Are the neighbors barbecuing again? That was a miserable day. The wind just blew the barbecue smoke right into the apartment. Anyway, so yeah, his actual name is Amen, the god Amen, for the 18th dynasty Amens of the Amen priesthood. That's where it comes from, and they were restoring the original religion of Osiris. That's why they gave themselves Horus names, was because they were restoring the kingdom after the Hyksos had two dynasties that sort of overlapped each other in Egypt, and then Moses chased them out. Get out! Get back up into Canaan. Let's see. Jesus for Savior died in Egypt. Revelation. No, Revelation 11. That's where it says that Osiris died and was crucified in Egypt. and it's not really crucified, because when John the Baptist says to Jesus, your shoelaces I'm unworthy to unloose, he's referring to the Egyptian ankh, which is the Christian cross. And the early Christians used the ankh first, and then it just got simplified and de-evolutionized over time into the regular cross, which is the Paleo-Hebrew Tau, which is the last letter of the Paleo-Hebrew alphabet. But that also refers to the Egyptian ankh in Egyptian hieratic rather than the hieroglyphic, which it would have been if it were hieroglyphs rather than hieratic that they used the cursive writing for it. But Revelation 11 is where that is found. And then Matthew 2 is where Jesus fulfills the prophecy according to Matthew by coming out of Egypt. The narrator or the author placed Jesus in Jerusalem, and so he had to figure out a way, well, how do I get him to fulfill the prophecy that he comes out of Egypt if he's in Jerusalem? Because that's during the Romans, and that was not occupied by Egypt anymore. And so he had to do a little ad-libbing to the story to fulfill the prophecy. So again, he's messing it all up. And so, yeah, but again, we're talking about Horus rather than Osiris with his birth. It's the part where Jesus dies, that's Osiris. The part where he's born and he does battle with the government and even the religion as he goes off on Pharisees and scribes in Matthew 23, that's all Horus. That's all prophecy of Horus, which John in chapter 12 gives us the date of when he will be around, commencing the battle. Right along with the New Year's of the Egyptian religious calendar, the month before, which was the first sign of the sun darkening. The Egyptians knew. Unbelievable how they knew. Yeah. It's a profound statement. I didn't always think about that. Samaritan Paleo-Hebrew preserving the original script. That's something. Was the Hebrew God the only one true God? The Hebrews also believed in Son Yah and Father Yah. The founder of the 18th dynasty, for example, is Yah Moses. Yah is the moon god of the Egyptians. And as a result, the moon god is the father Yah. So Yah Moses is therefore the son of the father Yah. Thus Son Yah is who Amun Moses is, a mortal man who is king. See the comparison with Amun. The son Amun became the pharaoh. That's who son Amun was. And father Amun is the one who had sex with the queen to give birth to son Amun, the successor to the throne. Same with Yah Moses, just with the moon instead of Amun, Yah instead of Amun. And so there's also direct evidence in a Paleo-Hebrew attempt to reconstruct the biblical Hebrew text, which is all messed up and mixed up. I have done a translation in Paleo-Hebrew of Genesis chapter 1, and I think I went through 3, but was recognizing that it had been corrupted with so many other different languages that it was impossible to reconstruct a Paleo-Hebrew text. and thus the need to restore the biblical Hebrew text to its original Egyptian before making a Paleo-Hebrew version. And in the Paleo-Hebrew version of chapter 1, I confirmed Father Yah having Son Yah as the light. If you remember the passage, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, and there was light, is Yah is light. And so that's his son. Yah is identified as the Father. They're using the pronoun for attached to verbs as he created in the translation. But again, that's a later development. Paleo-Hebrew, they actually didn't use pronouns. They used noun, verb, noun. And it was very simplistic. And so over time, things were developed. Adjectives and adverbs. Adjectives were a part of it because they had determinatives. But the use of an actual word for an adjective rather than a determinative to represent an adjective was a later development. But again, I didn't get around to doing the publication of the vocabulary for Paleo-Hebrew. But yeah, the Father Yah and Son Yah is in Genesis 1:1, and Son Yah becomes Yahweh, Jehovah, as we currently know it through corruption in phonetics with the European languages. And so yes, you can pick on Jehovah's Witnesses for using the corrupted pronunciation, as they insist it has to be pronounced Yahweh, or Jehovah, sorry. And so, you can have lots of fun with Jehovah's. They have no leg to stand on. But yeah, they retranslated their whole Bible to say, oh no, see, it says Jehovah right here, spelled with the J. This is the original. Yeah. And when I was up in Canada, Jehovah's knocked on our door with my first wife at that time. And I said, oh yeah, you guys, you utilize the Dead Sea Scrolls? Oh yeah, we have a guy in our membership who studies all about the Dead Sea Scrolls. We'll get in contact with him and he'll come and talk to you. Okay. Never came back. And the other guy never came. So yeah, hilarious. But the Dead Sea Scrolls don't have Genesis 1. I can't find it. I've got Emmanuel Tove's book that he goes over all the scrolls, comparing them with the Masoretic text. A great work if you're wanting to do the research on it. Should I? No, I won't pull it out. But nothing on Genesis 1:1. Nothing in the beginning, Genesis chapter 1. And so that got me kind of wondering why that one chapter is missing from the Dead Sea Scrolls. Until I found out that there was a unique scroll, the Sons of Light and Darkness, and the battle between the Sons of Light and Darkness. I can't remember the exact title of it. But then there it was. Because that's what's discussed in Genesis chapter 1. Is, remember, called the light day and the darkness night? Yeah, that's not translated correctly. If it were Paleo-Hebrew in origin. And so there were two sons of Yah. One was light, the other was darkness. And it says they were both sons of Yah. And And thus, oh, that's why they had this other document of the sons of light and the sons of darkness. It was because that's what was supposed to be the Genesis chapter 1 narrative. And that's where they got it from. And so that's something new that you guys have never heard and I've never published. So there you go. There's exclusive material for those who endured the 55 minutes. So yeah, this is going to go down as nobody hears about it. I'm still wondering, MD, are you listening? You said you were listening as you got upset with me. But are you listening lately? So, yeah. Oh, by the way, MD, we got a whole couple of boxes of tons of toilet paper. It was mistakenly dropped off at our apartment building. It was supposed to go to another apartment building. But I'm wondering if they don't have any workers there because of coronavirus shutting down and Governor Herbert extended it another month. That may sit in our building. We've got toilet paper. So when the church decides that you're just stringing them along for toilet paper and refuse to give you more, come on over. Come on up. So I think we're pretty much done. Was the Hebrew God the only true God? Was there a collection of gods with Elohim? No, there again, the Masoretes in 800 AD CE were mixing up all sorts of stuff. So Yah is a different god than El, and Elohim is a plural of El. And so, yeah, there's a lot of mix-ups and mess-ups. I did identify Yahweh Elohim, because when the author gives him the new name after completing the creation of earth, heaven and earth, he now calls him Yahweh. Not just Yahweh, but Yahweh Elohim. So it's Yahweh of the gods. So by fulfilling that assignment to create heaven and earth, he was then given the title of the God of gods, like the King of Kings, but the God of gods instead. Alrighty, so that's it. Alrighty, go over here, and yep, we're clear. Alrighty, so another hour on this one. So maybe bedtime will be when I finish.